Welcome to One in the Trenches podcast. I'm Johnny Jones. This is Patches Kaplan. We're here to break down last week's games, get into the top 25, and maybe even some little Heisman action. How we doing, Patch?
Doing good, Johnny. I'm not feeling too good after last week. A couple of my teams didn't play all that well. My Fighting Irish team that we haven't talked about all that much because their matchups haven't been all that well. It looks like a really good win,
Yeah,
Johnny. But if you
yeah.
take away, did you watch the highlights or watch the game at all?
I watched the highlights. I didn't get to watch the game because I was down in Penn State, but I did
They
watch the highlights of every
they
game.
got two interceptions,
Yep.
a muffed punt, and I think another special teams touchdown or something crazy where their offense only scored like two touchdowns, had like 222 yards of offense, and they somehow put up 28 points. And I'm leaving the game. Yes, we won, but we were up 21-7, and then they outscored us 14-7 to end the game. And I'm not feeling great about them. I thought that game was a little bit disappointing. But overall, what an exciting week of college football. Some games I would have never guessed. To jump into our picks last week, here were our slates. We had the 6 games that we picked were Bama, Georgia, Penn State, Illinois, Louisville, Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, K-State, Ole Miss, Kentucky, Michigan State, Ohio State.
Bad
Tough
week
by you.
Bad week by me.
1 for 6, Johnny.
Yeah, Waterfine's level. I came out too hot to start this.
Yep. So you actually lost the lead on the year to date. You are currently 18 for 37, just under 50%.
Okay.
I'm 19 for 37.
Okay,
so
I just won that.
on you. You did hit your BYU pick. That pick seemed too easy in hindsight.
Way
Plus
too
easy money. Take it to the bank.
Yep.
I was close with Illinois plus 18. I covered, did not win. No cheesecake for me. To start, we had Bama, Georgia, -2. Georgia was -2. They go into a tough stadium, a tough Alabama team. Did that game go anything like you thought it would?
No, before we hit record, I was saying to you, I was maybe the most wrong I've been all year was my take on this game. I said Malachi Starks and that Georgia defense was going to be able to stop the long ball, and then Bam was really going to struggle running it because of that. And Jalen Miller got every deep ball he wanted. It felt like every deep ball he wanted. Ryan Williams is a freak. Like, I don't know. He's like dancing. I've never even seen moves like that when he's spinning around. He goes back to guys.
His top end speed is so ridiculous that when he caught that final touchdown, I thought the DBs were going to catch up to him very easily, and then they just didn't, and he made them look slow.
Yeah,
he is so ridiculously fast, and there was comments about Jeremiah Love being the number one freshman in the nation. I don't think it's much of a conversation anymore. Jeremiah Love's ridiculous, but that kid. Ryan is unbelievable. 17 years old.
Yeah, no, it's insane. What shocked me about this game was this. I think Georgia looked good enough in the second half where I think they'll be fine. I think Bama really impressed me. Kalen DeBoer really impressed me. But what the biggest takeaway for me was, like Kirby Smart, like how slow Georgia looked in that first half. They were all of a sudden they were just down 28-0. It's like, I don't know if it's getting guys up or if it was a game plan thing, but I don't get how they came out so sluggish in this game. What do you think?
So I'm a little bit contrarian to that, Johnny. And
okay.
The reason I feel that way is I kind of more impressed by Georgia's game than I am Bama's in that situation. And hear me out for a second. And I'm a firm believer that I never judge a team by the first couple drives because those, especially if they score quickly, those 8, 10, 15, 20 plays are so scripted.
Yeah.
They're so perfected. And this Bama game has been on their minds for months and months and months. This game for Bama has been on their mind. It was a true test for Kalen DeBoer that they were averaging 11 yards a carry in the first half. They were running outside the tackles, running sweeps, running jets, and it was working. And then they come out in the second half, and Georgia shows how good they truly are, kind of dominated them. Once again, I will never snub my nose at a team who wins the game, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like if that was a neutral field site and they were to play again, I wouldn't take Georgia again in my parlays.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I was just more saying, like, to kind of go off what you said, if they had all this time, like this was such a big game, like I really wondered why Georgia, they just came out so lackadaisical, felt like. But I do give so much props to them because they made it a game. And if Ryan Williams wasn't from Mars, they probably win that game. But he just
I agree wholeheartedly. I really think that game was truly a perfect SEC matchup between the two. I stopped watching going into the third, and then I slowly kept flipping back and forth, and then next thing you know it was a close game, and I was on the edge of my seat. But, I would take Georgia in another matchup. I think that Georgia's not a team I would want to mess with, and them slipping down to, I think, 6 in the AP polls is not, or excuse me, 5 in the AP polls is not wrong by any means. You have to slip if you lose, but
they're
if they
great.
were the 5th ranked team, the things that Georgia would do to the 12th ranked team in the playoffs
Be
would,
inhumane.
yeah, they wouldn't even be funny. I still, and I'm a firm believer, I'd rather play Bama than I would Georgia.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the reason I'm going with that, Johnny, is that Bama looked terrible against USF.
Yeah.
Georgia, everyone was saying looked terrible against Kentucky, but then Kentucky beats Ole Miss, and everyone's like, okay, maybe that is not how it really played out. And all the credit to Bama. They played a hell of a game. But gun to my head, I still think that Georgia's a better team.
Yeah. Can we talk about what a turnaround it has been for Jalen Milroe? Like the beginning of last season, people wanted him didn't he sit the first half against
USF? Yeah, he got benched, I think, against USF.
And now he looks like he could win the Heisman. We'll talk into Heisman later, but he was making guys look slow. I know we talked about Ryan Williams.
I don't remember him being that fast either. He had like a 40-yard dash where he was cruising.
His lateral speed's incredible, man. Like he's a freak.
Yeah, no, he's very, very talented. It's sad. I wish Georgia was able to pull that one out, but good for Bama. I think that they're the team to beat. They have a tough upcoming schedule. Nothing to sleep on. We have Penn State, Illinois. You know Penn State better than anyone over the weekend, being there, being in the crowds. Heck of a game.
Yeah, heck of a game. I think that was like the most electric sports environment I've ever been into. That was like my second game there, but the first one I went was when I was so young. But man, the crowd brings it in. It was a great game. Penn State's defense looks like one of the top in the nation right now. They sacked Luke Altmaier 7 times. I think that really set the tone. And then, they just really pounded the ball. They focused on the run. I think they could have covered if they, hit those 2 field goals or maybe converted fourth down in the red zone. But, I think Penn State, a lot of people wanted to see them lose this week, but I think they just really talented team. They play really solid defense. They run the ball well, great tight end, and Drew Aller just does enough for them to keep going. But I do like Illinois. I don't think it's over for Illinois. I think they're a very talented team. I think they could have a really great season.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the Big Ten is so deep right now. It's absolutely crazy. I loved watching that game. I thought Penn State impressed me. I'm excited to see what they do against some of their other big games. We talked a little bit about Louisville, Notre Dame, so we'll skip that one.
Wait, I wanted one take on Notre Dame, and I wanted to see what you had to say.
Let it rip.
I think, I don't know, you can argue either way for a talent standpoint. I think Notre Dame right now looks like a more competent Michigan, where defensively both teams are very solid. Offensively, both teams have struggled. I know you haven't been the kindest to Riley Leonard, but I think he does a little more than Alex Orji, meaning like on offense, I feel like both teams play a similar game where their defense is going to shut you down. The defense might even or special teams might get a touchdown. And then offensively, they both want to run the ball. And I think with Riley Leonard, he can make a couple more throws than Orji. And then I think that's why Notre Dame has a better shot at going farther than Michigan.
I would agree with that. And I do want to talk about the playoffs a little bit. I would say that that's a really good take, that Notre Dame's almost more exaggerated than Michigan.
Yeah, exactly.
Where they have a little bit more talent. We're always going to count on an interception or two or special teams play. They're going to run the ball hard. But the ceiling right now for both Michigan, for Notre Dame is so capped. Capped.
Michigan's schedule's tough.
Michigan slate.
Yeah, they could have like 4 losses. They've got some tough
they just barely got out back to back with obviously USC and then Nebraska. But I didn't mean to say Nebraska, where
Minnesota.
But it's I think Notre Dame, and I want to talk about this when we go in the top 25 a little bit. I think Notre Dame has a path to playoffs. I also think there's a team on their schedule that they should be very, very scared for. Okay. And I think that this team also has a path to the playoffs. They're not in the top 25 as of right now, but I am going to reference this exact moment when they do make the playoffs, and you and I are both rich. We have OK State versus K-State. Another one that you were terribly wrong about, no offense. You said OK State's coming off a big loss, coming back. I knew Kansas State has their minds on the playoff. They got to win the Big Ten to do it. They played really, really well. Dropped 42 points. Avery Johnson looked really talented, looked very competent in the passing lanes and did his reads quite well.
I got to give all the props to Kansas State because I wanted to quit on them after that BYU loss, and I don't know how you could not after watching that game. They looked so bad against BYU. They bounced back so strong,
Yeah.
and I feel like I was, like, in a coma or something last year or, like, in a dream. I thought Ollie Gordon was just this All-American running back. He won the
I think
Doak
he
Award.
transferred to Boise State, Johnny.
Yeah, no, you're right.
There's no other explanation
Was
for
I
it.
dreaming last year? Like,
Dude,
Ollie Gordon
he
was
looked like Johnny, who was the player on Wisconsin a few years ago? He put up that game with like 580 yards.
is it Braylon, the guy in the Jets right now?
No, Taylor something.
Oh, Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
I was so excited for OG this year because I was like, it's about time we see another dominant running
Yeah.
back in the college scene, one that puts up, 1,700 yards this year, something amazing. And I'm uber disappointed right now.
No,
Uber
it's
disappointed.
crazy. I thought they were just gonna run it down Kansas State's throat. That was an all-time bad take. But just gotta keep spin takes out there.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do. Ole Miss, Kentucky. I gotta be truthful. I didn't even watch the game. It was so low scoring. I didn't bother to put it on. I thought Ole Miss was well equipped enough to pull out that win, but I think everyone's leaving saying Kentucky's actually a better team than we originally thought. But it's one of those teams. It's like, I guess we don't understand. They get stomped by USC,
Yep.
South Carolina, right, and then they come back and they play Georgia very tough, and then they beat Ole Miss. It's one of those teams. It's like, boy, I would not want to play them, but boy, I also don't know what I'm gonna get.
Yeah, no, I think with them, it's, they've got a great defense up front. Their front seven is like one of the best in the SEC. They've got killers up there, and I think against physical teams like Georgia, they match up. They match up really well. They can hold Georgia. They held Georgia, and I think against Ole Miss, like they're just kind of soft, and they got pushed around up front. Jackson Dart did not look good. I think Trey Harris had like 11 receptions for them. Like he was only finding Trey Harris. He wasn't spreading the ball out, and I think that really hurt them. And I think if I was Ole Miss, I'd be scared because they got to play. They got to play South Carolina last week, and South Carolina stomped Kentucky. And I know Kentucky's looked a lot better since then, but I don't know, man. Like this Ole Miss team, like they're so talented. I can't say that
Well,
enough.
yeah, they're so talented and they're star studded and they've put a lot of investment NIL wise into the team that, I'm not going to say Lane Kiffin's coaching for his job, but he's kind of coaching for his reputation, right? Because this was the year that he was supposed to define himself and make the playoffs and win a game. Then he just goes and drops to an unranked Kentucky team at home, I believe, right?
Yeah.
It's an absolutely terrible loss. Drops 9 points on an offense that's supposed to be, one of the best in the nation. Even Nick Saban on College Game Day said, until someone stops Ole Miss, I'm going to keep picking them every single week. And Kentucky literally just shut them right up.
Yeah. What about we give Lane Kiffin so much credit for being like a god in the transfer portal and NIL, and that he navigates all this so well, but all the guys he's gotten to go there. Now we got Walter Nolan and a bunch of guys all over the place, but I think what we should be remembering his transfer portal record is for losing Quinshon Judkins, because they could have used him that game. They could have.
It's tough. It went from college, and this is one of the things I hate about the transfer portal. The NIL doesn't bother me all that much. The transfer portal does. And the reason the transfer portal does is you have to recruit these kids out of high school to come to your university. That is a tall task. And then you have to recruit them every single year to stay there and what you can promise them and what you can give them. And that's exhausting. I could not imagine being a head coach, having to recruit my players once, win that, enjoy that triumph, and then have to continuously promise them, snaps, continuously promise them, certain formations that will outline their talents and, Uber's amounts of NIL money. That would be so frustrating. And, so I don't give them, I'm not giving him a hard time for losing Quinshon, but it is quite interesting. I could only imagine what OSU offered him.
Yeah, they must have offered him so much money because also Ohio State has Travion Henderson. So it's not even like they like all this money plus you're the feature back. It's like all this money, but you're going to split carries. So I don't know. It's just a weird situation because we say he's a transfer portal god, and then he might have lost the biggest piece on that team.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then speaking of Ohio State, that was our last game. You and I both picked Michigan State. Ohio State covered them pretty easily. Ohio State has yet to play a tough game. I don't know if they're going to show us. I think it's in 2 weeks they play Oregon. I don't know if the spread's out there yet. My guess is, being in Oregon, it's going to be Ohio State -4.
Yeah, I'd say
which I
around
will
that
take.
-4 game.
So I want to jump right into the top 25, Johnny.
Yes.
And I'm talking about the AP top 25.
Yep.
Excuse me. And I would like to start by saying whatever the voters in the AP top 25 put in their coffee, I would also like some because they are
Yes.
absolutely delusional.
It was weird this week. I don't know.
It's so weird. Like not ranking these teams is just some of these teams is just insulting, while also ranking some of them, so high.
Yeah.
Do you want to start at the top or you want to start at the bottom?
Let's start at the top because we'll end up kind of breezing through the bottom. But you
Yep.
want to start with we talked a lot about Bama. I think they deserve to be up there. I think obviously, they got the best win of the year right now. And they freaking looked really good in the first half. I know you said you
I
weren't.
mean, Georgia, to defend Georgia once again, I'm clearly showing a bias, but like their Clemson win is looking better and better to their
Yeah,
defense. Like,
that's true.
and I find myself defending losses a lot more than someone had to lose the game, right?
Yeah.
Georgia or Bama has to lose that game, and what they showed is indicative of a lot of different things. I really don't think that dropping to 5 is the answer on that one. But I can't disagree through one through 6. I agree almost wholeheartedly on the teams. I just don't know which order I put them in. I don't
Yeah,
love
no.
a team
I
wins
like
one
one
big
through.
game and jumps 3 spots over teams that also won very good games.
Yeah, no, I like 1 through 7. You're right. I don't know how you pick the order. I think because of that win, I think you got to put like Bama, Texas, and Ohio State kind of like in this tier above. Ohio State's tough because they really haven't played anyone. I know we wanted Michigan State to be a good game, and I think Michigan State's on the right track. But Ohio State really hasn't played anyone, so I'm fine with them in that 3 spot. And then Texas had that really big win against Michigan. They look really talented. They might have 2 of the best quarterback. They have the best quarterback room in the country, but I think both those teams so talented, and I like that 1 through 3.
The
Uh,
SEC is going to cannibalize itself. Like the big,
mhm.
like Ohio State has 2 hard games on their entire schedule, right? They have Oregon, 2.5, Oregon, Penn State, and Indiana.
Yeah.
But like Texas, they play OU in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. They play LSU, I believe. They play Auburn. They also play Bama. Or no, they play Georgia at home. Like that's not easy. That's why I truly believe that the SEC is going to get 4 teams into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Some of which might be 2 losses. Some of which, if it really cannibalizes itself, might be 3 losses.
Yeah, no, I think the SEC is super talented this year. But
So, so
but
for our listeners, we have 1 through 6 are Alabama, Texas, Ohio State, Tennessee, a team that's been a little bit on idle because I think they're coming off a bye week.
Yep.
Georgia, Oregon. Obviously the big matchup on October 12th, Ohio State, Oregon. I think Texas plays OU. So both some really, really good games. Following that, Johnny, we have 7 through 10, Penn State, Miami, Mizzou, and Michigan.
Okay, if I want to start it out, I think Penn State's in the right spot. I
Yeah.
think they're a really good team, really talented. They played sound football. I think they're good 7. I'm not a big believer in 8 through 10.
Can I
Miami,
pause you there?
yeah.
Would you ever make an argument that they should be higher than 7?
Penn State.
Yes.
I'm grouping teams right now. I'm going Alabama, Texas, and Ohio State kind of in this S tier, and then I don't like. I think
Like, would you compare that? Would you compare their win against Illinois to Tennessee's win against OU?
Yeah, just because I don't know how good Oklahoma is. Their offense looks atrocious right now.
Yeah.
So I think Tennessee's so talented, and I think like preseason, I think Tennessee, Oregon, and Penn State are all in the same tier for me. I think Georgia is probably above everyone. They looked really good. And I think they've been on top of the game for so long that I don't think you can knock them. But I don't really know how I would rank Tennessee, Georgia, and Oregon. I mean Tennessee, Penn State, and Oregon. I know Penn State and Oregon both, Penn State had that Bowling Green game. Oregon had those first 2 games where they just didn't blow teams out. I still think both of them are talented enough to be in that tier with Tennessee. But those
when you're talking about these tiers, Johnny, what is making you decide that they're such an elite tier versus a mid tier versus a lower team? And when I say like, does Penn State deserve to be any higher? And how why I want to talk about it is that I like to think of head up matchups, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that, just to digress really quickly, I'm looking at number 14, our Fighting Irish,
Yeah.
right? They're 1 spot above Clemson. They're below LSU, Ole Miss, USC, and Michigan. And there's not an ounce of me that believes that Notre Dame would beat Clemson this Saturday if they were to play on a neutral site. So that's kind of what I don't understand about the AP polls is that if you do, and I know Vegas, the game isn't played in Vegas. Some are, but You know what I'm trying to say? They're not played on
Yeah.
those
No.
jumbotrons.
Yeah.
But what are we basing these top 25s off of? Right. And I think it should be almost more of a power rankings thing. The same thing that the MLB does every Monday, where
Yeah.
you're saying that in a game of 7, this team is better than that team is better than this team, and so on and so forth until you're at the best team. Do you
I
agree
think
with that?
Yeah, no, I like that, but I think resume has to play a part in this. Like, what you have shown is what you are to some degree. To some degree. And I think that needs to count for something. And I think that's
I,
what the
I
AP
agree.
poll.
It needs to count in the playoff picture. In the AP polls, I don't think it has to agree as much because there should be some type of correlation, right? There should
Yeah.
be a correlation between what you are putting on the field versus what you would be in a head-to-head matchup.
Yeah.
And
No,
I just think
yeah.
it goes to show a little bit that some of these teams have these really good wins, and then some teams like Ohio State haven't played anyone, but everyone and their mothers knows if Ohio State played Notre Dame right now, the spread would be probably 17 points.
Yeah. No, it's got to be somewhere in the middle. It's just tough because for years we haven't had we don't know the formula, so it's just tough looking at this and be like, what are these people even thinking? Sometimes
I would pay a lot of money to be, especially last year, to be like a ghost in the playoff committee
it'd be
room.
awesome. It'd be so
Like,
awesome.
I just can't imagine. Like, are they ordering pizza? Are they slugging back beers? Like, how does it work? I would love to be there. But 7 through 10, we have Penn State, Miami, Mizzou, and Michigan. Miami wins one of the most bizarre games I've ever seen. A Hail Mary goes up, is technically caught, and then they reverse the call but don't give any kind of explanation.
It is
To
weird.
me, it looked like a catch.
I thought it was a catch. I also think I was really surprised. You could convince me it was a catch or if it wasn't a catch. I'm not here to
Yeah, I'm
decide
still
that.
50-50. I'd say more 51-49 type of thing.
But I'm surprised they overturned it because we talked, I think, about it last week. But like, the
Mhm.
call in the field is usually like the letter of the law, and they never overturn the call in the field unless it's indisputable evidence. You hear that word indisputable like 10 times on one
Yeah,
Saturday
the
if you watch a
call
full
is
state.
confirmed. Call is was it
Yeah.
call is confirmed or call stands as called?
Yeah, so I was just really surprised they overturned it because of the call in the field. I've talked to you a bunch about Mario Cristobal. I love Mario Cristobal at Oregon. I'm an Oregon fan.
Mhm.
Also, I loved him there. In the past 2 seasons, I've been so high on Miami going into the season. I've just seen just mistakes after mistakes and like these small games they should have won, like the Georgia Hail Mary last year, or whatever. Then when they should have like ran it out and won that game. I just don't know if I trust Miami. I think Cam Ward's going to be like could win the Heisman, but I'm just saying like I just don't know. I'm not ready to trust Cristobal in this Miami team just because I've been let down so
It's
many times.
funny. I feel like there's all these very inconsistent coaches that are on the brink of being really, really good.
Yeah,
Miami won, Kansas State, and Coach Kleiman has one. Notre Dame has one, where they all really good teams, and you like where they're going. But on the flip side, there's like these games where you're like, what the hell is actually going on? Like,
that's what I'm saying.
what are you telling these kids? And that game, I give Virginia Tech a lot of credit. They're coming out swinging for every single game. I think they should have gotten a W in that column this week. But that is no easy game. I think that Miami's a really, really good team. And just like I said, I don't know if they're really going to get to show it until the playoffs. It's one of those I don't really know what we're going to get until they play Clemson, I think, in October.
Yeah, no. The only ranked matchup they have, Miami, is Louisville. They don't. They play. They go on. They play
They don't
Cal.
play
No, they play Cal, Louisville, Florida State looks bad. Duke,
good.
Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse. So like I just don't like even after that full season, I don't know what I'm gonna think about Miami because they don't really play anyone. I think Cam Ward's fantastic, but I don't know. I thought Virginia Tech was gonna be the game they dropped. So I don't know if I trust
They
them.
drop one, I believe.
What'd you say?
I think they can afford to drop one.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't think they're gonna have a super strong resume. But that leads us into Missouri and Michigan are 2 other teams that
Yeah,
I trust Miami more, and that's why I like that they're ranked ahead. But
yeah.
Missouri and Michigan, I don't believe in at all. But I think they both have paths because I think well, not so much Michigan. I think Missouri has a very easy schedule. Like they could get murdered, I think, by Bama and still make it just because they're going to be a one-loss SEC team. Michigan, on the other hand, I was looking at their schedule today, and they play Iowa, Oregon, Nebraska, Penn State, and wait, no, hold on, I'm looking at Ohio State right now. My bad. Um, Michigan. Michigan plays Illinois, Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State. They could lose all 4 of those games.
Yes, they could.
They could have 5 losses this year, which would be crazy.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't. They got to figure out to do something on offense. I think that they're way overranked. Right, a very good win against USC, but they got dominated from start to finish against Texas. They got put to the test against Minnesota. It was a really bad game early on, but in typical fashion, they let up some. It came down to like a last play type thing. It was very, very game. Max played great. Good to see that.
Yeah, I think it just kind of comes down to with Michigan. It kind of comes down to if a team can even come close to matching them up front, they're going to lose that game because they haven't surpassed 100 yards the past 2 games passing. Like if you can just kind of stall the run, they're going to lose.
Yeah, which I think they could against Illinois. I think they definitely could against Ohio State. They're not
going to win. Indiana. Your Indiana Hoosiers are going to beat them.
I hope so. So if you go on the All-State Playoff Predictor, what's crazy is when we first had this conversation, I put in a bet because I saw that they had a 13% chance of making the playoff. And I looked at their schedule and I said, I think it's better than that. And just to digress really quickly, Johnny.
Yeah.
You can see me, right? Because I'm on a different webpage here.
No, I've got a black screen from you now.
Geez. All right. Let's see.
You got you back.
All right, real quick. I'm going to read them. I'm going to go black for a second here.
Yep.
So we have Texas, Bama, Ohio. Oh, excuse me. Texas at 91%, Bama at 91%, Ohio State at 85%, Tennessee 79%, Georgia 72%, Miami 61%, Penn State 61%, Oregon 60%, Notre Dame 46%, Ole Miss 41%, Indiana 40%. And I remember texting you and saying they beat UCLA. You should put them on your radar. I bought a ticket at 100-1. And instantly after that game, they dropped to 80-1. Then they followed that up with a really good win at Maryland, and they're down to 7-1, Johnny. They're a good team. They're a really good team.
I think they lose to Ohio State. I think they're going to beat Michigan. I think I think their entire season is going to come down to if they can go 2-0 in Nebraska and Michigan. And if they can, they're in. I don't think they'll get in with 2 losses.
No, I don't think so either. I think that the Big Ten gets 3. So I think it goes Big Ten gets 3, SEC gets 4. That's 7. ACC gets 1. Big 12 gets 1. That's 9. And then I'm going to go as far as saying I think there's two group 5s that get
/ independent. I think it's group of 5 / independent. You know what I mean? Like, I think Notre Dame, you know what I mean?
You're saying that the independent could technically count as their group 5 pick? Like,
no. I'm saying those last slots are either going to be 2 group of 5 or a group of 5 and an independent.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
And so to go back to the AP Top 25, we have USC, Southern California at 11, Ole Miss at 12, LSU at 13, Notre Dame at 14, Clemson at 15, and Iowa State, a very sneaky Big 12 team, at 16. We've talked a little bit about USC, where I'm still overly impressed with them. I think that they have a really hard schedule. They're getting slept on a little bit just because of how hard their schedule is. I think LSU looks nothing impressive. I don't really like Michigan. I don't really understand what they're doing there.
Yeah. I don't know. I think LSU is kind of a big question mark. They haven't really impressed me. Ole Miss looks soft. USC, I think, is going to get cannibalized because their schedule is freaking brutal. I think they go.
Yep.
They have Penn State they've got Penn State, Minnesota, who actually looks pretty not awful, and then Nebraska, Notre Dame. So I think if they drop one more, they're out. And then you said Clemson at 15. I was slow to do it, but I'm starting to drink the Clemson Kool-Aid again. They're starting to reel me back in.
I'm in the Clemson boat the same way you're in the Miami boat. There's just no way in hell in 2024 that I can trust them right now.
Yeah.
They need to go out and win the ACC championship by 21 points, and then I'll have this conversation. But there's nothing in the ACC that they can do that'll prove me wrong, right? They could go play BC, which I think they do play BC. They could go play BC and win by 35 points. I'm still saying that there's something off about that team and off about that game. I'm not overly impressed by them yet. I do think that their offense is starting to roll and their defense is playing good. But
What
they
about
got stomped by Georgia. It's
what about
unexpected.
DJ's ducking Clemson? He's out this week. DJ's
Oh,
not playing. He hurt his finger. He's not out against Clemson. It's just so soft. Dude, Florida.
that doesn't surprise me. Like, what does that dude do now? Right? Like, he was on top of the world. I think he was the third ranked ESPN top 300 player of that year with CJ Stroud and someone else in the NFL,
Yeah, yeah.
another in the NFL, and comes in freshman years, plays behind Trevor Lawrence, goes in against Notre Dame. I'll never forget it. Plays so well that there was
Awesome.
conversations that he should start over Trevor Lawrence.
He's awesome.
Comes in the next year, plays absolutely terrible. Comes in the following year, plays absolutely terrible. Then he transfers to Oregon State, plays okay, and then transfers to FSU and is legit one of the worst starting five or power four quarterbacks that I've seen in college football. Gets benched, now he's out. Like, what is next for that guy?
I don't know, man. I think he should switch. I
Like,
think he should switch to DN. His brother's a pretty good DN for Oregon. Just maybe give that a try. I don't know, dude.
dude, it is sad. Like, I don't for the life of me understand how someone could go so sour so quickly.
I really wanted him to play this week and just him revert back to that Notre Dame game against Clemson and just go off. That would have been so awesome.
That'd be so crazy. So we have, speaking of Notre Dame, I don't think that of those 6 teams, I don't think Michigan has a path. I don't think USC has a path. Ole Miss's door is shutting quickly. LSU absolutely does not have a path. Notre Dame has an interesting path, and I want to pull up their schedule really quick because there is a game on there.
Do you want me to say it? I got it up.
Yeah, and I want you to tell me if there's a game out there that's catching your eye that they should be genuinely concerned about. That's not Georgia Tech. That's not USC. Go ahead.
I got it. Is it Army?
Yes.
Yeah, Army looks good.
Very, very good. I'm saying that Army has one tough team on their schedule, and that's Notre Dame. When you have that one tunnel vision game, it is so easy to say, guys, we need to play 60 minutes of the best football of your life, and Army is in the playoff, Johnny. Imagine that.
No, tell me this. Navy, too. Navy,
That's going to be a playoff game, Johnny. Army Navy at the end of November is going to be a playoff game.
That's crazy, and I love it. That would be Isn't that a standalone game too? Like, isn't Army Navy play?
It's after Thanksgiving weekend. It's the only game. It's last year was at Gillette.
That would be sick.
Dude, imagine that. I'm telling you, Army very well. My guess is because it's at MetLife or Yankee Stadium, one of the two. That Notre Dame's going to be like a 9-point favorite. My guess is maybe 8.5, 8. I think that Army could run the ball all over Notre Dame, and Notre Dame couldn't even score on them. I think that they go into that game 8-0.
Yeah, no, they're a scary team because they don't have a great schedule, and
they would get in over Boise, they would get in over JMU, they would get in over Texas State.
It's going to be hard to keep an undefeated team out. I don't think you can.
No, I don't think you can either. I think, and you have to look at it and you say like, hey, because if you look at JMU's schedule, JMU's path to 11-0 is like ridiculously easy.
Yeah.
Right. Boise already dropped theirs. Texas State already dropped against Arizona. The path to JMU 11-0 is super, super easy, and it'd be very hard to keep them out. But what I'm saying is that if Army goes 11-0 and their key matchup win is on a neutral site, Notre Dame, there's no chance they keep them out.
Oh, they're in. Yeah, no, that's a trap game, especially it's kind of like right before USC. So like Notre Dame might be looking ahead. They just beat Virginia. I don't know. It's a scary game, but I think Notre Dame, if they win out, they have a path. The thing that's what could screw them is it's going to come down to like, is a one-loss Notre Dame going to get in over like one-loss Missouri or like another one-loss Big Ten team? And that's the thing where I think that
let's say Penn State drops one game, right? And that's to Ohio State.
You got to put them over.
It's clear as day they're going to be in over Notre Dame. That would be without saying it. But then you get into that dirty conversation that Nick Saban always scoffed about and said, you should evaluate based off losses because losses means you're playing really good teams. And everyone's like, you should base them off wins, not losses. And I go back and forth. Like, I think a really good loss against Ohio State looks obviously. I don't know if there's a loss out there for the key matchups that we've talked about, the Ole Misses, the Michigans, LSU, where they're more unimpressive than losing to Northern Illinois.
What about this? Okay, this is gonna be a tough one for you because you like both these teams. One lot, so Michigan, Notre Dame runs the table. They're undefeated. Indiana,
They're talking. They're undefeated besides Northern Illinois.
So yeah, that's what I meant. Like one loss Notre Dame, one loss Notre Dame.
Yep.
It's them or two loss Indiana, but they played Nebraska.
I gotta go 2-loss Indiana. Notre Dame's schedule is so soft this year that anything more than one loss should be warranting of firing Marcus Freeman, Johnny.
Yeah.
A non-playoff Notre Dame should be looking to replace him. Right? You go in, you get one of the best transfer quarterbacks, best. I absolutely can't stand the way Riley Leonard plays, but you go in and you get him, and then you have a terrible game against Northern Illinois. You have no offensive identity. You pay Mike Denbrock almost $4 million a year, and he's producing 235 yards offense. Oh, tremendous. And you lose to Northern Illinois. I think that the Indiana argument's a little bit tougher, but I think like a 2-loss Georgia is obviously in. A 2-loss.
The only thing that could help Notre Dame is if Texas A&M goes out and beats Missouri this week, because they're not impressive, but they keep winning. Texas A&M.
Like, where are they? 25 though.
Texas A&M.
Right? Yeah, they just not dominated. They played a really, really tough game against a very good Arkansas team.
They're 25.
That's kind of insulting. Like, they should be ahead of, some of these other teams. Like, and to continue on it a little bit, like, we have BYU at 17, which I think is well deserving. I think it's a kind of a perfect spot for BYU. But like Utah at 18, that Oklahoma State win's looking less and less impressive. We have Oklahoma, who looks absolutely terrible at 19. You can't tell me that Oklahoma is a top 25, top 20 team in college football right now. You couldn't tell me.
Their offense is so bad. I want to touch upon BYU for a second, though. They're the most confusing team, I think, in this poll, because I think I could, after that Kansas State game, I wanted to put them at like 12. But then you look at their schedule, squeaked by SMU, who looks pretty good, squeaked by Baylor, one touchdown, and then what?
Dominated FSU, by the way.
and then they kill Kansas State. So I have no idea how good they are.
And I'm a piggyback because I gotta stay parallel with some of my arguments here. Is that I said that Bama, I'm not unimpressed by Bama's win, but I'm not jumping with joy at their winning. The reason that is because they scored 4 touchdowns and 4 drives, which means that those plays are very, very scripted, and Georgia had no answer. Same with BYU. This last weekend, they scored 5 touchdowns, I think, in 7 drives or something like that. Yeah. And then they did nothing the rest of the game. They didn't put up another point.
No, they're confusing.
I like 17. I don't think Utah should be at 18. I certainly don't think Oklahoma should be at 19. I think both of those should be lower. And then I guess Kansas State is at 20. I think that Kansas State's a very impressive team. They had one bad game besides BYU. I think that they should be behind BYU. That's obvious. But, 20s I think is insulting. I think they should be at least 18, if not a little bit higher.
Oh, I think it's just the way they lost is why they're at 20. But I would go back to your head-to-head argument. I'd take Kansas State over Oklahoma and Utah. I think I might take Boise State over Oklahoma and Utah.
Yes, we have Boise coming in at 21 and Louisville at 22. Like, I think if Louisville plays Oklahoma right now, they'd be a 6-point favorite, if not more. I think Boise State would be Oklahoma and Utah right now. And this is where I go with the power matchups. I absolutely hate the way the AP poll goes about this, because it almost seems like the preseason polls play way too much influence for all of September.
It determines how everything goes, because look at Indiana. Indiana's been impressive as any other team in the country. There's no way Indiana should be behind Louisville or Oklahoma or Utah. And same with even really, Illinois. I think
dropped 42 points with 3 turnovers.
I think Illinois should be higher. I think their loss is just as good as a couple other teams' losses.
Yeah, what's crazy about the Illinois loss is that if they win that game, they're going to be top 12. But they drop a very close game by legit 3 plays, and they're down at 24. they're not a bad team just because they lost to a really good team. They lost to a top 10 team at home at night during a whiteout energy night. Give them credit.
Yeah.
They top 20 team.
That's what I'm saying. I think they should be hanging around Notre Dame. I think they're very similar teams.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
like I know Notre Dame lost to like a significantly worse team, and Illinois lost to Penn State, but Notre Dame has 2 wins against ranked teams right now. Illinois they beat Nebraska. I don't know. I think Illinois and Indiana are getting criminally disrespected because they play in
I
a
would agree.
I think those 2 Big 12 teams, Utah and Oklahoma, there's no way they should be above those 2 Big 10 teams.
No. And then finally, we have at 25, we have UNLV, which I absolutely love. The fact that the backup, now the starter came in, threw for 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. That other kid, Fleabag, quit on his team. And it just goes to show they didn't need him. They're better than he is. They played better than they played with him.
Another FCS guy. He was at Campbell, and they took in 2 FCS guys and was just like battling out, which is kind of crazy. Yeah,
I respect the hell out of that. All right, Johnny. So we're gonna move to our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games of the week. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a preview, and then while I'm doing that, I'll let you kind of ponder it. We'll go through the spreads, and then I'd love to hear your cheesecake pick of the week. So we have, speaking of them, UNLV at Syracuse. UNLV is a 6-point favorite. I love the way Kyle McCord's playing. That's why I wanted this game. I'm very, very excited. I got to be truthful. It's kind of a down week. I think everyone's getting a little bit excited for October football, so this one's a little bit low. We have Mizzou versus A&M. It's at A&M. A&M's a 2-point favorite. I consider Kyle Field a 5-point external force, I would say.
Yeah.
So on a neutral site, I think that Mizzou would be a 3-point favorite. But because of the home field advantage, they get 5 or so. Normal stadiums offer 3, but we have Clemson minus 14.5 at FSU. We have Tennessee minus 13.5 against Arkansas. We have Michigan is a 2.5-point underdog against Washington. And we have UCF is a 3-point favorite against Florida. The team we didn't talk about, UCF Colorado, I have no opinion on it. I don't know how to feel about Colorado. I'm still not rooting for them. Gotta give them credit where credit deserves. That was a good win, but I thought a really good. If Florida wins this game, Billy Napier might finish out the year.
Yeah, I know. Florida needs the UCF thing. KJ sucks, and I'm the biggest KJ Jefferson hater in the world. I don't know why I am. I don't know how I became this way, but he can't run that offense. I thought they were going to be Colorado. I hate to say it, Colorado's looking good. The Big 12 sucks right now. Well, not this.
Just a bunch of mid teams. I think.
No, it doesn't suck. You're right, but there's just a bunch of average teams, and I think the Big 12, maybe the Big 12 and the ACC are up for grabs by like 4 teams in each conference, and I think it's going to be fun to see who wins either one and gets in.
So, Johnny, let's hear it. UNLV versus Syracuse. It's at UNLV. They're 6-point favorites.
I'm going to come out and say this is my cheesecake pick of the week.
Whoa.
I'm taking Q's. I think 6.5 points is kind of disrespectful against an ACC team. I think Syracuse has played good enough football. UNLV had a great win last week, a super emotional win last week. I still don't think they're as good as people think they are. They played good football. We got to remember, this is still their backup quarterback. I know he went off last week.
Yeah, the Cinderella story will eventually slow down. I agree with you. I think Syracuse gets this. I think they at least cover. I think they're a really, really good team. They beat Georgia Tech. Who have they lost to?
Syracuse.
Yeah.
I forget. I think it was ACC team.
They're a really good football team, and they lost to Stanford just the other day.
Yeah, that was a bad loss, but I'm still picking them.
Yeah. No, I agree with you wholeheartedly. So I like Syracuse as well. I think they win this game, but I'm not picking them as my cheesecake pick of the week. That is a awesome pick by you. I love Kyle McCord. I like what he's doing. I like their coach there. We have Mizzou at Kyle Field against A&M. Mike Elko looking for a nice top 10 win to get that team, College Station, bumping. You trust the Aggies?
What was the line again?
-2. It's less than a field goal.
I'm just gonna need you to read the lines again for me. -2 of Mizzou.
A&M's -2, Johnny.
Oh, I'm taking Mizzou then. Mizzou. I don't think Mizzou's impressed. They haven't impressed me. I think they're frauds. A&M also hasn't looked super impressive. They're winning, which is important, but they're winning these kind of these gross close games. And I think Mizzou is just a little too talented. I think people aren't talking enough about Luther Burden the third. I think he was talked about a lot last year. I think he's a phenomenal receiver, and I think they go in there and get the win.
I'm going with A&M. I like the way that Mike Elko is already starting the team. The better that A&M looks, the better that Notre Dame looks. So I'm kind of rooting for A&M now. I think Mike was enough to get the job done. I think in a close game, home field advantage means a lot. The talent, I don't think, is as far as you would like to believe. I'm going to take A&M that one.
Okay.
This next line, Clemson versus FSU, we have minus 14.5. Does that number seem low to you?
It seems low.
Vegas knows something that we don't. Everything that they're doing, I would expect this to be 24.
Maybe they're better without DJ. Maybe they're
they absolutely.
I'm hammering Clemson. Our number one commenter of this podcast, Matt Pittman, told me this is a Clemson hammer play. He says that, and I agree. I just think Clemson's really been scoring the ball.
He's biased to the ACC. That has to be on the record.
What'd you say?
He is biased towards the ACC.
Oh, no, he loves UNC. He loves UNC. No, but that being said, I think Clemson they're trying to make the playoff desperately. I think they've got a great defense, and I think because of that, they're just trying to put as many points as possible on teams.
They need to look as aggressive as possible.
Exactly.
And wholeheartedly, that 14.5 makes me a little bit concerned because, like I said, if you told me the matchup last week and what the spread would have been, I would have said 24 points. So, being 10 off is very interesting. So I don't expect this game to be close. FSU has looked terrible in all aspects of the game. That's not going to be a game. Another game that has me a little bit interested in why the spread isn't larger is Tennessee versus Arkansas.
What was the spread?
13.5. So just under 2 touchdowns.
This is another game similar to the last one where you're right. The line scares me because I would have put this at like 17, I think.
17,
I feel
19.
Yeah. I'm taking Tennessee. Florida's not been impressive. And I don't know. I think Tennessee scores that will. I don't know. Maybe people didn't like the Oklahoma win. Like they could have scored more that game. I don't know. I just feel
interesting. I think that the run game for Arkansas will hold them into the game, but I don't think that they'll do enough. I think Sam Pittman's doing enough to keep his job, but they're not going to get enough to cover that spread. I think that's a 21-point game coming off a bye week and probably a really good bye week, time frame. End of September, you've been playing football now for 2 full months, including camp. I think it's a really good week for them to come off. Very tough game. They're going to come shooting, coming into SEC play moving forward. We have Michigan against the Huskies. And this is another one where this line does not make a whole lot of sense to me. The Huskies are minus 2.5. I know that's their home, but nonetheless, I would have anticipated coming off a team. I don't know if I should say this now, but the Huskies just lost to Rutgers, a very good Big Ten team. And now they are going to go play Michigan. They're 2.5-point favorites. I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole.
No.
This game is gross because Washington hasn't looked that good. I know they just lost to Rutgers. They looked bad. What?
This is 13-10. It can go either way. The score's going to be 13-10.
No, it's going to be gross. And, they didn't look good against Washington State. And they lost the Apple Cup. It's Michigan plus 2.5?
Yeah.
I'm going to take Michigan. I hate Michigan, but I'm going to take them. I think Washington's just down this year. I don't know. I think the defense is too good.
As well, I'm hoping Washington wins because I would love to see Rutgers get in the top 25, and I think a Washington win would show that Washington's a really good team and that Rutgers is an even better team. So that's speaking of Rutgers, I think that's a team that's gotten absolutely shafted in the top 25. They are 4-0, some really good wins out of them. Yet they're not even top 25. They absolutely should be. And then finally, we have UCF versus Florida. I think this is truly the game that Billy Napier could save or lose his job, right? Yeah. UCF is coming off an absolutely embarrassing play against Colorado. They're looking to come back, and UCF is looking to win this game, which at one point seemed completely impossible.
Yeah. This is a tough one.
I would never touch this game.
No, it's gross. They didn't look that. They kind of hung in there for a little bit against Texas A&M, and then the Miami game was super embarrassing. I guess I'll go UCF.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Florida. I think that the home field advantage is why the spread is close, but I do think that they can get this win. I do like Billy Napier. I know I've been very wishy-washy on him. I think that he is a good coach. It's just going to take some time. You got to give a guy credit where credit's deserved in the sense of he is one of the hardest schedules I've ever seen in a college football program in my adult life. I can't tell you the last time that I've seen a program like him play the teams that he's about to play.
It's
So he's got to get wins possible, and he's going to get one against UCF this weekend. I think he's going to get one against Florida State in a couple weeks, and that might be it for the season. And my cheesecake pick of the week, Johnny, I've already mentioned, got to be Rutgers.
Let's do it. Let's go.
+6 against Nebraska. I thought Nebraska was very underwhelming last week. It's a very close game against, let's see, they played Purdue last week, and I believe it was a 7-3 game going into the fourth, Johnny, where Nebraska put up 21 points in the fourth. So you're talking to me, it was a one-possession game for 45 out of the 60 minutes. No, that's sickening. Their offense looks dead. Purdue's not a good team. Putting up 0 in the first half is embarrassing. Rutgers is 4-0. I think that they could beat Nebraska, get people off that hype train, and Greg Schiano is really starting to hype those guys up over at Rutgers U.
Yeah, no, we're both +6.5. We're both +6.5 cheesecake picks. So if one of us wins, the other one loses.
If you win and I lose, I'm currently up 11-6. So if you win and I lose, you will be up on our Cheesecake Factory. And that makes me nervous because I know how much you can eat, and I don't know if I can afford your Cheesecake Factory bill.
No, you're right. I'm ordering everything, like 5-course meal, 7 drinks.
The steak, the lobster, a couple drinks, multiple cheesecake.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, Johnny, we're going to conclude the podcast for this week. We'll talk more next week, and good luck to your Orange men.
Yep. To you. Go, Schiano.